Calling the meeting to order. It's Thursday, September 28th, 2017, and this is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, Santa Barbara Community College District. We have everyone of our trustees present except Jonathan Aboud, and Jonathan has told me he will be about 10 minutes late, but he's coming. Welcome. Thank you, audience, for joining us. We always enjoy having people here, even if for only part of the meeting. I also wanted to mention in our introduction here that there is an event at 5:30 over at the BCC building. Our SBCC Foundation and the college are extremely grateful to Julie Nadell for their pledge of $1 million as an endowment, basically. This is a fund established at the foundation, and it will support in perpetuity the highest needs of the programs and initiatives of all academic disciplines that are in the SBCC Business Division. This evening's event is celebrating the opening of the school, which has been renamed Jack and Julie Nadell School of Business and Entrepreneurship, and the lobby. And the lobby has been redesigned. It's on the second floor of the BC building, Business and Communications building. And it's basically intended as a location where students can study and utilize on campus, and it has multi-purpose elements as well. And we're very excited about all of this. So we are hopeful that we will end in time to get over there. But do not be surprised if we don't. At 5:20, Dr. Beebe, Veronica Gallardo, and Peter Hasland will go to that event and leave the rest of us here to finish up. So. Our next item is recognitions.
Yes, we have two. Make sure this is on. We have two recognitions. The first one is Pat Aguilera, and we have Rocco Constantino here to say some words about Pat. 25 years of service.
Thank you, Dr. Beebe. Thank you, Board, for having me here and for recognizing Pat for his service. During my short time as the Director of Athletics at SBCC, it has become apparent to me that Pat Aguilera is an essential member of the department's day-to-day operations, and he has been now for 25 years. Pat has all the attributes that make him a highly respected and very well-liked person among his colleagues. He's loyal, hardworking, and is one of those people that can be described as the glue that holds our operations together. Pat works extremely hard to provide our students and coaches the best experience possible at SBCC. He takes great pride in his work and the facilities at the college, and all he asks in return is that people show the same respect to our facilities and campus. I feel grateful that I have someone as trustworthy as Pat to serve in so many roles within our department. Many of his responsibilities come late at night or on the weekends when we're all home, and he's trustworthy and does a great job with all that. I respect everything that Pat has done over the years, especially since his role changes on a daily basis as well. It comes with a lot of long and odd hours. It's difficult to work that way for any amount of time, but to have done so for 25 years speaks directly towards his work ethic and the pride that he takes in his job. On behalf of the Phys Ed and Athletics Department, I would like to congratulate Pat on 25 years and thank him for his invaluable dedication to Santa Barbara City College.
So many. That's okay.
So our second person is Jose Gomez. And Josh Murray is here to say some words about Jose, who has also been here for 25 years. Long time.
So I've had the privilege of working with Jose Luis, as we call him regularly, and I've been working with him for coming up on 6 of his 25 years with the college. He is a facilities assistant at our Schott campus, working in the evenings and nights, keeping the campus clean and orderly, keeping up with many classroom setups, as the classrooms at our Schott campus are used for a wide variety of things, which takes a lot of planning and muscle to move everything around, to transition a classroom from a ukulele class to a painting class to a lecture class, all within a very limited amount of time, so that Jose Luis does that regularly, flawlessly. He also will dabble in some light maintenance when we have the opportunity to give those pieces to him when he's juggling all his normal duties, and he does those well. He's in fact probably our master window tinter. Yes. Knocks out perfect window tint every time. Anyway, some of the words of his colleagues that were shared with me in reflections of being a team member with Jose Luis: willingness to step up to the plate and do whatever is needed, comes to work, does his work, stuff gets done. He's the kind of guy you know when he's not there. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can also echo this kind of team-first mentality. Example of that is whenever Jose Luis needs to take time off, usually to be with his kids, to be at their extracurricular pieces or just to care for them. He'll come to me, explain what's going on, and he already has spoken with the rest of the team, knows that other people will be there before he even comes to me. So just always a team first. As mentioned, he has 2 beautiful young children that he is a great father to. Somewhat of an entrepreneur. He's flipped houses and owns houses, and yeah. So he's that. In fact, when I first met him, he just came back from a trip from China and was trying to get me to invest in an electric bike company. This is about 6 years ago, right? When there was and we all know I think it's a thriving business in our city. We probably both wouldn't be here if I would have taken you up on that, but anyway. Jose Luis works well alone, works well with others, and is just the type of guy that's great to have on our team. So I just want to recognize Jose Luis.
I just want to say thank you, everyone, and I really enjoy working at SBCC. Thank you.
Thank you. So that ends our recognitions for longevity.
Okay. Well, congratulations to Pat and Jose. 25 years is terrific, and we appreciate it. That brings us to public comment. Angie, is Eric Fricky here? Yes, there he is. Eric wanted to make a public comment.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Beebe. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Ricardo Ornelas, who just recently passed away. Ricardo was a very valued member of our security department. Ricardo began working for security as a student worker back in 1989, and then became a full-time employee in 1993. Ricardo beginning work as a student worker had a great understanding of what it's like to be a student as well as a student worker, which was something that many of our student workers that came to follow had a great appreciation and experience, someone to rely on. Our security department actually began under student services with the guidance of former security director Don Seaver and Dean Jane Craven. So our focus was very student-oriented. This was a deep value that Ricardo carried with him through all those years. Ricardo's presence on this campus for the 28 years touched the lives of so many people. Ricardo had many close friends, and in particular was close to those who worked in the cashier's department, in student life, transfer center, admissions, facilities, and so many other areas. Ricardo is missed, and we're all very thankful for the time that we had to spend with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Our next item are reports, and we have a report from the Academic Senate, Priscilla Butler.
Good evening, President Croninger, members of the board, and Dr. Beebe. So it's my pleasure to talk about two events that the Academic Senate conducted this week. On Tuesday, we were part of the National Voter Registration Drive, and we had 11 volunteers, mainly faculty, but I need to mention one rather important administrator. Dr. Beebe also volunteered at our table, and throughout the day we helped students complete their applications, and we were able to get 71 completed voter registration forms, so we were very happy about that. On the same day, we also had the first in our 3-part lecture series. It was a panel, and board member Marianne Kugler was able to attend. Thank you for that. You know, one of our intentions behind this panel is really to ask people to come into the dialogue and think about information, ideas, and issues together and engage in a conversation around that. And I would say that those that our intended function really happened on Tuesday night. We had a really interesting series of three faculty presentations. Patricia Stark talked about the mass media. Matt Kay discussed the climate change, and Carrie Hutchinson from Communication talked about online discourse. And this is all part of the context of reflecting on the 2016 elections. Our audience members asked really interesting, challenging questions, and we had a great dialogue after that. So it was very exciting to be part of that event. We have another event in October and then the 3rd in November. Another thing that faculty are working on, and this is part of a really big effort, and I should say it's part of a college-wide effort. And of course, we've talked before about guided pathways. So we have a core team membership who are attending the institutes, Dr. Beebe, of course, and Dr. Jarrell, myself, Luz, and then 2 other faculty members, Guire in counseling and Jamie in math. And we've been we attended the first institute, we'll be participating in other events, but really the first institute focused on developing an organizational structure for planning the level of change that would be needed to address the fundamental principle of guided pathways, which is helping students reach their goals in a way that is efficient for them. So we have also, under the 4 pillars, guided pathways is often described as having 4 pillars. Under these 4 pillars, we've established work groups that have faculty participants who are going to be developing the ideas about how we will move forward with this effort. We also have our steering committee, which has the core team members and then representatives from all of our governance groups, and we had a really good conversation with our classified consultation group, so thank you to Liz for that. And I would say we've started to talk about our focus for the spring 2018 in-service being around conversations around describing language and describing the programs that we offer in ways that students can more easily understand. So that is sometimes referred to as, instead of the 100+ list of majors that students see when they come in and they're kind of overwhelmed by that, thinking more in terms of large categories of areas of interest. So one of the first steps that we plan to take is describing what we offer in a way that's more easily accessible to students in language that is approachable for them as well. We also have several departments that are working on creating clearer program maps in their areas. So right now, when a student decides on a major, they have, if they look at the IGETSI sheet, they have many choices, and sometimes that's overwhelming. One of the principles that we learned about at the Institute was that when people are given too many choices, sometimes it freezes them, not frees them, freezes them, so they are incapacitated to make a decision. And so those departments that have expressed interest in starting sort of our preliminary group working on that are going to be selecting more specific and narrowed choices that will really fit with the particular major and support the student in taking coursework which reflects what they need in that program of study. So we have embarked on this work, and it's my intention to give you updates periodically about how we're doing on that. But I also want to acknowledge, and the recognitions tonight and the other topics that were presented so far remind me that we are all part of a community together, here talking about the roles that every member of our college community plays and how integral everybody is. I think it's worth noting that we really plan to do this together. So while I'm really focusing on the faculty component, because we need to address many areas, but it's really all of us working together. So that's a core principle also behind the work of Guided Pathways.
Any questions? Well, thank you, Priscilla. I know the board is particularly excited about Guided Pathways, and we'll look forward to your additional reports.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have an associated student report?
Yes, we do. Josh is here.
Good evening, Dr. Beebe, President Croninger, members of the board. It's a pleasure for me to be able to report on the recent progress of the ASG. As of recently, the Senate has been working very diligently to fulfill the duties and responsibilities required of the ASG. We've hosted a very successful club day with 46 clubs registered to date. As of September 22nd, we have added 8 new members, making the ASG a team of 13. This upcoming weekend, the new members will go through a workshop on Brown Act and Robert's Rules of Order, run by a nationally recognized parliamentarian. Most of our elected members were able to attend an equity conference in Ontario earlier this month, and we are excited to bring some new, fresh ideas back to SBCC. Currently, we are hosting a legislative town hall with Assemblywoman Monique Limon and Senator Hannah Beth Jackson on October 23rd, and we are in the works of planning a town hall open to all District 6 candidates. We've been able to get our new committee set into place, and we are excited to see what the future has to come.
Questions, anyone? Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Liz Hochenkloss, classified.
Lots going on. We're very busy.
Oh, yes, classified are very busy right now. I wanted to, members of the board, President Croninger, Dr. Beebe, I just want to say we had a great classified consultation meeting last week with Dr. Butler and Dr. Gerald coming and talking to us about Guided Pathways. After the in-service, the classified felt kind of like, where do we fit in with this? It was kind of like they didn't really know. They were kind of confused. So Priscilla and Paul came and they explained it. They just come back from their training, so they explained things to us, and we were able to appoint 2 people. Many of our members were interested in participating in it, so we got 2 that were that we chose it by lot because we had so many interested. So they will be attending and bringing back to us, because our members are really wondering how it fits in with everything else the college does. The college has lots of different programs, so they tried to explain to us how it all fits in, but I think as time goes on, we will all be learning how it all fits together, but everybody was excited about it, so thank you for coming, and that's my report. Oh, I just want to say one more thing. Ricardo is going to be very missed. He was here for a long time, and he knew lots of people, and most of us knew him. And there will be a ceremony for him next week on Tuesday at noon at the library. So I'm glad the college is doing that. I think Jason Walker is one of the leads in that. And so I think it's a good thing to do because he was here a long time, and it was a real tragedy when we lost him.
Thank you, Liz.
Yeah, he left us way too early.
Marcia, I just wanted to say to Liz, I think you guys play a huge role in this Pathway project. Because I'll tell you, as a parent, when we were registering this fall, it was the classified staff that got us our book, that told us where to go. When we were trying to register for the class, it was the classified staff, as we're standing in student services, like a deer in headlights, and they told us what paper to get, who to talk to. And everywhere we looked, it was the classified staff, and it was the only reason my daughter got enrolled, because you guys were at student services on the front line asking questions. So I think, if anything, I mean, you guys are central to bringing all of this into one clear roadmap for kids and for students, so thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. First-hand experience there. Anthony, your report.
So for my report, I want to invite Lindsay to come down to the podium, and while she's coming down, I'll give you some great news that we got yesterday. We were notified that tentatively, Dr. Jarrell wants me to say tentatively, 99.9% sure that we're going to be awarded a Title V grant that is going to take place over the next 5 years and give us, the district, $2.7 million. These are not easy grants to get. There's a lot of components to the grant, but it also ties in, I think, very directly with what Dr. Butler was talking about with Guided Pathways, and can support the efforts in that direction. So very pleased about that, and I think it's going to be a big help to us going forward. So just to set Lindsay up a little bit, we had an opportunity to recognize and acknowledge all of the new administrators, the new faculty members, and so today what I was wanting us to do is to be able to recognize our new classified members, and Lindsay wanted to be able to do that, and so we'll turn it over to her.
Thank you, Dr. Beebe, and good afternoon to all of our wonderful board members. So I have a long list. I had this grand vision to say a few things about everyone, but I realized that might take a little bit too long. We have a group of 12 classified staff that were hired in the fiscal year 16-17 that I'm gonna list all of them off, as well as another 18 folks that were hired just in this fiscal year, so just in the last few months. A wonderful group. I'm happy to be able to say a handful of these I know well, and that they're a wonderful addition to our team here. So I'm gonna start off with our hires from 16-17, and a couple of them actually happen to be here. First on my list, I have Gabby. Her name's Gabriella, but I only know her as Gabby Aragwin. She's in Accounting Tech 3, so I did get a chance to briefly work with her when she started. It was kind of right when I moved offices, but she's a wonderful addition to our fiscal services team, and she has a very cute 14-month-old little baby girl, and she's a wonderful mother. So that's Gabby. And right next to her happens to be someone else from fiscal, Brittany Herrera. She's also in Accounting Tech 3. She works in the student finance department, or also known as cashiers, with our other ladies here. And Brittany's a wonderful success story for Santa Barbara City College. She was a student worker here at Santa Barbara City College. She's still a student here, And her supervisors, all of us, continue to push her to finish her degree, and she plans to transfer to UC Santa Barbara when she finishes here in the spring. Okay, so those are a couple of our folks who are here. Now I have a list of folks who aren't here, and then I'll get to the other couple of people who are here as well. So we have Lydiana Saldana, a new admissions and records technician. We have Barbara Dixon, a new program systems support specialist. We have Isidro Santana. He's a custodian in facilities. We have Elizabeth Morris, a financial aid technician. We have Joseph Mercado, a food service assistant, wonderful cook I know well. Amanda Jacobs, a marketing communications specialist. Nicole Walter, a senior office assistant in the international office. Christian Limon, a spa and enrollment services or a student program advisor. Mary Lou Hernandez, another spa in EOPS. And Marisa Flores, another spa in the transfer center. Okay, now I'm going to go on to the list of people who were just hired recently in 17-18. We have Christina Garcia Otero, an admin assistant in ed programs. Eduardo Contreras, an admissions and records technician. Catherine Olmsted, allied health and nursing lab coordinator. Gabriel Contreras Hernandez, another custodian in facilities. Jose Hinosa, another custodian. Leticia Ortega, our first female custodian who works in the night with all the guys, so we're hoping she's keeping all those guys in order. Antonio Jimenez, a food service assistant. Fernando Segoviana Salas, another food service assistant. Timothy Levidnuk, another food service assistant. We had a lot of turnover in food service. Efren Rojas, our final food service assistant we recently hired. Gordon Miguel, our HR technician. Seamus Irving, an information systems specialist. Ron Farrell, a laboratory technician in physics. Nidhi Marcela Ortiz Urbano, an office assistant at the Child Care Center. And Angela Ortiz, a senior office assistant there as well. Brandy Freeman, a spa and financial aid. And we have two more, but these folks are here. So we have Brett Wutzke. Did I get it right? All right, wonderful. He's a network specialist in IT, and he came to us from the city of Lompoc. And here's what I learned about him. He's a father, but he's also a musician in a heavy metal band called Secret Sword. Poor guy. Yeah. Yeah. He's the one. I heard you're the drummer? All right, very good. Important. So welcome. We're happy to have you here. And Kyle Rasmussen, welcome. He is our Veteran Support and Research Center coordinator. Very happy to have him here. He came from the Department of Defense, so he was a human resources assistant there. And Kyle is a Marine Corps veteran. He's a father of two and enjoys running. And for him, the best part of working at SBCC is getting to know and collaborating with our employees and students. So welcome, Kyle. We're happy to have you. That's my whole list.
Yes. I think that's a very important thing for us to be able to do because, Veronica, as you point out, these folks are the ones that really do help support the student success that we have here. And many times they're not always acknowledged as much as we should be. And so I'm glad that we were able to do that.
Yes, thank you and welcome to everyone. It's really exciting to hear about all our new employees. We haven't had that honor before, so thank you. Anthony, is there anything else you wanted to cover?
That's it. That's the
Okay.
end of my report.
Now it's board members, report from board members. So Jonathan, you want first?
I got some good stuff. So the first one is Assembly Bill 618 passed, which allows for job order contracting at community colleges. It was a privilege only school districts had, and it's just a way to do small construction projects. But we were given that privilege now. Another one is something that we're not sure what's going to happen with, and Anthony signed us on as a supporter for this, which is Assembly Bill 19. So we're with a bunch of other community colleges supporting the bill that would make 1 year of community college free in California from the state level, not at the district level. So every community college will become 1 year free for, 12 units, full-time, that kind of thing. But that's exciting, so I encourage everybody here to send in a letter to the governor. I can, Anthony, you have the information, so if you want to send it out to everybody, that'd be great. If we all just voice our support, and we have the privilege of saying that, we've done it here and we saw how well it worked, so it should work everywhere else. So that's a great one.
Is it tuition, are we talking about?
Tuition, yeah. 1
Tuition,
year
yeah.
free, yeah.
Because our
So-
promise program
It's more
goes
than
beyond that, yes.
And I had also the privilege yesterday of being at Sacramento City College at a hearing, and their promise program is in development, and I got to brag about ours being 2 years free and everything included. So-
Textbooks, supplies,
Yep.
those are big cost
Oh,
items.
yeah, because the students there were talking about how, it's not just tuition, as we all know. So I got to mention that we did full 2 years of, all-inclusive. So I went to a conference on last Friday, and it's the National Association of Latino Elected Officials Higher Education Conference for California Policy. Lots of cool stuff. So I got to learn in depth about guided pathways from the person who's the chair of the Guided Pathways Project. Her name's Sonia from, do you know her? She's the president of Bakersfield College. Yeah, so she gave us an 1.5 hour long presentation about guided pathways from how they conceived it to where it's going now. So it's really educational for me because I had understood it, but to get the full picture from her made me an even stronger believer in doing that. The chancellor was there. He was speaking about the attainment gap and the degree gap for Latino students especially, and he was discussing the numbers that we were looking at a couple weeks ago of the scorecards. So, and he's very concerned about where the numbers are at, and one of the things he mentioned a lot is remedial education and rethinking that. There was a panel about faculty diversity and the lack thereof in community colleges in California, and there was a point where we could share what we had done in our colleges. So I got to bring up what we had done, and a lot of people actually asked me for the example policy that we passed a couple weeks ago, and they want to pass it at their community college. So that was good. And then there was another panel about the cost of college and the struggles, and about how you can make tuition free, but there's still a whole other half or even more of the equation that you need to work out for people, especially here at community colleges. So I can send out all the PowerPoints with all the data once I get them. I was just on the website trying to see if they had uploaded them yet, but they haven't. But lots of really good PowerPoints by some of the top experts, so I'll send that out when I get it.
I was interested in the first bill that you referred to.
618?
That seemed, I can't remember the number, but it was one that would allow us to engage in construction projects under different circumstances that now prevail. Is there a ceiling to how much
Yeah,
the project can?
Let's see, what is the number they have in here?
Is that a source of encouragement for us, Anthony?
Potentially, I mean, it gives us other options. 618, right?
618, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't say in the bill description what the, max for the
Yeah.
dollar amount on the project, but it says that, here's the solution. It says, AB 618 authorizes California community colleges who have entered into project labor agreements to utilize job order contracting until 2022. This bill will improve the cost effectiveness and efficiency of smaller construction tasks at our colleges without foregoing quality and the integrity of the bidding process. So,
So it would seem that the major dependent variable is the upper limit. When they talk about smaller projects, I'm imagining that they're talking about something like $100,000 or $250,000. But that would be worth finding out, because the process that now is imposed on us is cumbersome.
yeah, so this is aimed towards making it more flexible for us, so we'll get that number. But it's not for some reason, not in the official bill description, but it's from the Assembly Member's Office to introduce it, so yeah, I don't know why it's not in there, but.
Okay,
Good, thanks.
Yeah.
all right. Our K-12 folks.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to attend the Girls Inc. fundraiser luncheon this last weekend. And I was reminded, if you guys have heard of me, we've talked about this before, that the situational context of our students, whether it's social, political, linguistic, cultural, and economic, all of those contexts are bigger than any one institution or any one K-16 system can tackle on their own. And so, again, I remind us that many of the missions of our nonprofits that are out there, they're aimed at improving the lives of women, of children, of students of different areas. And so when the philanthropic community shows up in force to support a Girls Inc., and when I looked at their flyer of their first cohort of Eureka Girls, which are their STEM focus, their flyer has these girls of where they're now in college, and it's Santa Barbara City College, 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 and a handful UC, CSU. And not that they weren't college bound. They could have gone to the 4-year. But because of the economic context of these students, we are the pipeline to a 4-year institution. We also have our peak students now, and I believe we might have the second cohort of our peak students. And these are students that have been supported through our local foundations from junior high on. And so now they're passing the baton, and so now it's our job to pick up those efforts with JAF. And I think that this is an important pivotal point for us because the philanthropic community is now looking to us. They've invested in these kids, in these students, in these families. And so everything that we do here, from guided pathways to everything you have to do, and listening to Jonathan, there's these big systemic achievement gaps across the country, but we can focus on what we can control with the partnerships of our nonprofits and the philanthropic sector within our local communities. And so that's huge. So I just wanted to point that out. In addition, I had the opportunity to visit some of our academies, only because my daughter is in high school. So while I'm at the open house, I went to the different pathways. And we have some pretty amazing folks on the ground, encouraging our students in the allied health and the construction. I was reminded of the caliber and the quality of the teaching profession that we have here in town. And just like here on campus, a lot of our programs, a lot of our grants, they happen because people are in the right place. And I got to see our wood shop and for our pathways for construction. And I'll tell you, you've got 2 folks on that ground that are like the right people. And I said to one of them last night, so what's your wish? If you could have anything, because he was talking about the kids moving through Santa Barbara Junior High to Santa Barbara High School, then doing the 1 year at City College here as a CTE, and then working while still going to school. So I just thought, well, what's your wish? If you could wish of something to make this, what would it be? And he's just like, gosh, I don't know. No one's asked me that. And I said, well, let me know, because when you have motivated people on the ground, fired up for our academies and our CTE programs, then to me, that's already half the battle, because they're already fulfilling our mission and they're working with kids. So I just think that that's great, and we've got a good thing going on there. I think that's it for K-12.
Okay. Marianne, did you have any comments?
Yes, I, as you know, periodically are invited to attend community meetings, Goleta and Isla Vista, when school starts, usually, because large groups of students get together and move into houses, and many of them are SBCC students. Last year, we had the great privilege of having Dean Partee, who agreed to deal with cases where they needed special attention. And Dr. Beebe and I are talking about that again to see how we can be responsive. But the thing that I thought was most interesting is that this time, in both meetings, the agreement was that it was, generally speaking, not SBCC students, that there were some in each of the groups who lived in the joint houses, but that in general, the SBCC students seemed to be polite and responsive when they were asked to calm down. So I want to congratulate our student government. I suspect that there's been some work on this, and to say how delighted I was to hear that. The other thing was this wonderful meeting that Dr. Beebe mentioned with the faculty speakers. If you have a chance ever to go hear some of our faculty when they're talking about their areas of expertise, you will just not hear better talks than I heard the other day.
It's true.
Okay, Craig,
Yeah, I'd like to add to what Mary Ann just
I think you're not coming through.
I need to turn that on. I'd like to add to what Mary Ann just said. That was very good to hear. I would encourage the student body president here to not back off on those efforts at all with our students that live in Isla Vista, because there's a general feeling, that the worst of the problems are the SBCC students. And that's pretty understandable because they are the youngest and they're usually first time away from home, and they need more help, they need more guidance, and they need more contact. And in other words, we need to show them a way. And I have a number of contacts out there that I see regularly socially, and I talk to them, and in the sheriff's department, on a foot patrol. And my wife is back out there again now working as a park ranger for the parks in Isla Vista. And so there's this stuff is like common conversation within my household. And so don't back off on it. They need us to focus and to be there and kind of show the way. That's all they need. Just don't back off. That's wonderful. And I had one other thing not related to that really at all. Ever since the Promise program got started, I've been talking to people all over the place wherever I go, and what's dawned on me recently is the effect that we've had, like statewide. When I go out of our community, not just here, but even in town here, when I tell people about it, and they go, "Oh, but I live in Ventura. That means my kids can't go there for free." And, but when I'm in other communities and I talk to my peers about it, they're like odd. And I think what's gotten back to me is that they're going, well, they may have all these good things going for them there in Santa Barbara, and they can afford that. But then again, they can all afford it if they want to seek out the ways to accomplish it. And I think that we're leading by example here, and there's a lot of interest, and it's growing. And so maybe we should pat ourselves on the back for that, and then it spurs me to think, boy, maybe I could work a little harder and I could get just a little bit more done or play even a bigger role. I don't know that I can do that, but I know that as long as we don't back off and we keep striving to be better, that's how we're going to stay number one. And I extend my thank yous to all the staff and the faculty that have been doing such a wonderful job, and not to mention our counterparts over at the foundation. Okay, that was about all the mouth you're going to get out of me for a while.
The Promise is the program they put together, and we're really grateful. So, okay. Peter.
Yesterday, I was at the Valle Verde skilled nursing home where my wife is recovering from surgery, and there was a group of CNA students, certified nursing assistants, in new red uniforms. So I snuck up on them and I asked them, "Where are you taking your classes?" And they said with such gusto and enthusiasm, "We are from Santa Barbara City College." And I pointed out to them, "Oh, yes, the Harvard of the West." And one of them said, "Really?" So I said yes and walked away. I have two other brief notices. One is I had lunch with the chair of the Board of Trustees for the Carpinteria Unified School District, and I think that kind of outreach, that's Andy Schaefer, and I think that kind of outreach is really helpful. It helps to make what we do in the field of education a little more seamless as we understand the challenges that each of us faces. We certainly had a harmony of interest, and it was a good discussion. Also, this past month, I had the pleasure of meeting Kyle Rasmussen, who's now head of our Veterans Center. And, you know, we talk a lot about veterans who get in trouble because of the system. And the Veterans Administration has a reputation for screwing up as well as anybody. But not here. Here we have somebody who is dedicated to making sure that those who wore the uniform and served their country get a fair break at the educational brass ring. And I'm just delighted to have met Kyle, and I look forward to working with him.
Well, thank you, Peter. All right, I can report on the community mitigation ad hoc committee. I'm sorry, messing up that name. We went through several attempts to find meeting dates, and we have now settled on one for October 9th. So that's our next event, and unfortunately, we had to move it a few times. Poor Angie kept looking. And the second thing I was going to mention is that the league conference in November, which traditionally most of the board members, Veronica has not been able to go then, she typically went in May, but the rest of us have gone to, seems to have taken a great leap forward in price. And given our budget situation, my inclination in talking with Anthony was that we would perhaps do well to forego this year. And that means that we have room for another board meeting, because we normally only have one in November, because we're going to the league conference right about then. And that would be November 16th. So that's the thinking. If somebody has a major objection, let me know. But
well, I do want to say sometimes these meetings are very, very useful, very helpful. And I understand that we are in a time of austerity, and I really do appreciate that. So what I'd want to do is see if we couldn't benefit from the discussions, and I know that's difficult, but somehow there needs to be a way of them sharing what they learn so that we can learn it as well, even though we choose not to spend the money to get there. Yeah, Angie was good enough to look into a flight to the conference, and I responded that the flight cost was $700. I didn't think I was worth that much. And
Where's to? Huh? Where to?
San Jose.
San Jose.
$700.
Yeah.
Well,
I assume that was a round trip.
And on
So we get me back.
and on top of that, the conference itself is like $700 plus the
Yeah.
room and meals. So
Right,
it's
right.
really adding
It
up.
is expensive. So, okay, I'm okay with not going, but two things. One, I'd like to find out how we can benefit from what happened. And second, I'd like to make create some kind of a panel that would look into these rising costs at a time when all of us are struggling. I think it's very unfortunate that schools choose not to go to a professional conference because the damn costs are where they are. I think that's counterproductive.
Well, I certainly think that the professional development, I think the chance to meet and talk with other trustees and CEOs and learn in the breakout sessions has been really valuable. What this does is it suggests that we have to do some more on our own. We have to think about the topics we want to hear about and maybe bring somebody to talk to us. I have in the past looked for the league to put up PowerPoints when the presenter would say they would, and have not seen them. And I suspect there's an economic disincentive to do that because it's easier for people not to go. So I don't hold out a lot of hope that they will make it easy for us to benefit.
Yeah, but Marcia, maybe what we're really thinking about is a greater emphasis on regional conferences where the distances to be traveled are not so great, where hotel accommodations need not be 4-star, maybe they can be just 3-star. I'm happy with 1. So I just think that there's a real value for us getting together with our colleagues at other institutions and hammering out stuff. I just don't want to see us completely surrender simply because the price tag is high. And
Well, I think that's a really good suggestion. I mean, it would take some work, but one could probably pull together a regional conference of some sort. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I think to both your points, first of all, you know, we've got people, colleagues that are attending, and we can get some feedback from them in terms of some of the topics that were covered. And then in terms of maybe discussing with President Larry Galizio aspects of the cost that you've shared, we can certainly do that. The idea of a regional conference, summit of some kind, you know, looking at Ventura to Allen Hancock,
Yeah.
you know, might be definitely worthy of exploration and learn from each other in this area, because we have specific.
Santa Clarita, too.
Santa Clarita, sure.
Yeah.
Well, typically, when this idea is put forward, people at the statewide level say, you know, that's too much work, but what they really mean is too much work for them. Because they'd have to repeat or forego the repetition for themselves. But it doesn't mean that we couldn't have a regional conference where substantive discussions could take place and we would learn something. So in terms of an action item, I wonder if our board president would care to write a letter to CCLC.
We're not in the mode here, but how about putting it under future items for future board meetings? Because we're not
Oh, yeah.
taking
It
action
was-
right
it-
now.
it was
But
just a
It's
suggestion.
informal, I know,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think we can keep it there.
Okay.
Well,
Craig?
Yeah, when I didn't find out till shortly before the meeting that, because I thought, well, I should go. I didn't realize the costs were, and I thought, okay, nobody's going to go. But I thought, well, I could still go, but then whether the college pays for it or not. But then I thought, man, if I'm the only one that goes, then the onus is on me to like keep track of everything that went on and come back and tell you guys all about it. And if I spend all my time trying to keep track of everything that's going on, I'm not going to have the time or the freedom to participate in those areas that I would find most interesting to me. And I thought, I don't know, I don't get paid to be a board secretary. If I want to do this on my own, if I'm expected to come back and tell you all about that, then I won't be able to, I think my ability to learn from the experience would be truncated, so to speak. And that's why I spoke up just now to add that. I don't know that that's a good thing. I think it's a valid point. You can get so busy in a class taking notes that you forget to learn anything. I actually had one professor in a college class that, and the class was really big, and there was only 35 desks, and there's like 60 people want to take the class. And when he told them that they would not be allowed to take notes in his class and that he was not going to lecture out of the textbook, that they needed to be there and they needed to listen, and he had all this work that they had to do in the library and research they had to do, all but 15 people dropped the class. But you know, his point was, I want them to pay attention to what I'm teaching, not pay attention to taking notes. And
Mary Ann?
Just listening to this reminds me that I did want to tell you all, I found out about a meeting in Santa Clarita in a few days, which is about the connection between community colleges and their communities, and it is free. And I'm going to be going, so if anybody would like to come with me.
I will be there.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I'll send you the material.
You could send around the information maybe to
I
the board
will,
members
sure,
and
okay.
see who might be interested.
You know, Marcia?
Yes.
I really think, I'm very, well, let me just say, I think these conferences are amazing when you go. You learn a lot, and I don't think I've ever come back without some ideas. And so it's kind of, it's not good that we are really not able to go. And I think that it's important that this discussion, I couldn't agree more with Peter. I think it's just, it's a shame that we can't do this. No, I don't want to put up my own money. No, I don't want to go by myself. And no, I don't want to take notes. So I understand all that. But I do think that our discussion here should be conveyed to the powers on high, which I know you're probably going to do. But I think it's we've always been very active in this group. And we've always been, a lot of us have gone to these conferences. So I think they need to hear that. I don't know what makes them so expensive, but whatever it is, I think they need to know that we had this discussion.
I'll let them know.
Yeah, thank you.
I will say really quick that even this past Friday, I talked to other community college trustees, and they didn't go to the last one and aren't planning on going to this one because of the price. So we're not the only ones.
Yeah.
Well, we did have one more point about not going, which almost bothers me a little bit, is that, when I first got on this board and we were going through accreditation issues, we were really graded on, in part, on the board's participation in their own education, and part of the board's education was going to these conferences. And everybody on this board made, at least at that time, made, real efforts to go to as many conferences as they could. And I don't want a negative impact because we avoided a conference. I don't know how, to me, that's inconsistent. I'll pay out of my pocket if I need to, but if I go, then I don't really want to be everybody else's note taker either, so.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was pointing out that I think it comes back to us to be attentive to our professional development and be creative in how we're going to go do that. Peter's suggestion, regional conference, sounds really exciting. It's good to hear from Jonathan that we're not the only ones worrying about this, and maybe that'll give some incentive to your idea, Peter, because...
Well, I think the point that Marty followed up with is what I was really getting at. If we just have this conversation among ourselves, the point will not be made. We have to convey the seriousness of this double point, the first of which is, we really wanted to go. And secondly, we find ourselves short of the coins of the realm, and we choose not to use those dollars for a conference. Instead, but it's not because we're boycotting the conference.
Yeah. Right.
Good point.
That's right. So, thank you, everyone. Any other reports? Are we set on reports? Now we get to item 6, development of the consent agenda, and the possibility of removing items from the consent agenda. Anthony has already asked about removing 10.4. He wants to talk with us about what that's about. And I was thinking that 8.1, which is, let me remind myself.
Public hearing.
Collective bargaining.
Oh, collective bargaining. It seemed to me that that one ought to have its own standalone. Whether or not we have comments, we should give it its own space. So I would pull 8.1.
That is marked as an action item, so
Yeah.
that would not be included. The consent agenda would actually just be 7.1 through 7.4.
But we can also do the stipends, the 9s,
Right.
and the business services ones, up to, but not including the resolutions.
Right.
Right, so that would mean that we would have, well, the first question is, does anyone want to pull anything else? Okay, so that would mean we need a motion to approve items 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, 9.1, and 9.2, and 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3.
I move approval, 7.1 through 7.4, 9.1 through 9.2, and 10.1 through 10.3.
Got it.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments on those? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that takes care of that. Now, the next one would be 8.1.
So I've got Dr. Jarrell, who is our chief negotiator for the district, here to give us an update on negotiations.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. As you're aware, a couple weeks ago, we sunshined the district's request for reopeners to the Faculty Association. We have met twice regarding those items, and we project that we'll have one more meeting before we wrap that one up. We're really all wanting to move forward with negotiating a successor agreement rather than spending a lot of time on the reopeners.
Well, that was to the point, brief. Questions?
All there is.
Okay, we're not expected to comment on this.
So we won't.
Okay.
Meet expectations.
As 8.1, we're not taking action either, right, Angie?
10.4.
Because it's not, it's noticed
Required.
as information
Correct.
procedural.
Correct.
No action
Okay.
required.
No action required, okay? And that then takes us to 10.4. Anthony?
Let's see, 10.4. Okay, so as part of our efficiency, EIPI, our grant that we received that helps us be more efficient and effective, part of that enables us to
Grant from?
the state. Yeah, it's a state chancellor's grant. Part of that enables us to have some different kinds of technology that we can use to be able to help some of those persistence rates that we looked at last time from the scorecard. And this particular software program here, which is Salesforce Enrollment RX, enables us to find out on more of a real-time basis where our students are and be able to kind of have an intervention earlier rather than later, and also communicate with our students a little bit better. I don't know if Dr. Jarrell wants to talk a little bit more about the software package itself and maybe what it does. It's all yours. This does tie in specifically, though, with our Pathways, Guided Pathways initiative.
Yeah, good evening again. Yeah, as Dr. Beebe mentioned, as a result of, we requested a site visit from the Institutional Effectiveness Partnership Initiative. And basically, it's an opportunity for us to request a visit about issues that are of concern for us before they become of concern for anyone else. And we expressed that we would like to have some guidance and consultation regarding enrollment management, effective enrollment management practices. So a team came, they visited with us 3 different times, they met with different constituent groups on campus, gathered a bunch of information about where they feel we are in the process and what are giving us some ideas about what are some opportunities that we may have to be able to improve our practices here. One of the areas that they identified that we could stand to improve was our ability to track student interaction, both from point of first contact prior to them becoming students, and then once a student is here and in the system, being able to keep in one place and house in one place all of the communication that occurs with the student. And that's not just directed communication from us to them or them to us, it's in regard to their progress here, the courses, their success, and whatever as they move through that. So one of the programs that's available, software solutions available to allow you to track that interaction is Salesforce. It's a constituent relationship management system. It's used by most of the large businesses to track relationship with their customers and potential customers, right? A lot of automated feedback interactions with their customers. There's a huge movement over the past decade or so to use those kind of CRMs, as they're called, in enrollment management services and retention services for universities to allow us to think of our process as a business and our students as customers and trying to manage the interaction between them. So that's really what this package allows us to do. It's a package that's developed for higher education institutions that allow us to track that student interaction over the course of the student life cycle, from first interaction all the way through to employment potentially. We can link this with all kinds of things from LinkedIn to things that we have currently here with regard to Starfish and monitoring successes of our students and things like that. So it really does allow us to kind of organize all of that. So this particular package is one, after we've looked at a couple of them, that we feel meets our solutions the best. It puts the least drain on our IT infrastructure because it's pretty well managed by Salesforce and Enrollment RX. And so that's what this is, really looking at enrollment strategies and retention strategies really aimed at trying to increase both of those enrollment services and retention management. I can ask a specific question, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with this kind of software because I have a sales background, and
Yeah.
I did the assume thing. I don't want to spell that. But because I really thought that we were already using software that did this. However, if we're not, this is a really good thing to do. I would hope and think that this would be a revenue, I mean, the software's not free, I'm sure, but that it would be a revenue neutral item for the benefit that it could provide.
Well, yeah, the goal is, I mean, we recognize that especially with retention, that's an area that we have a lot of, I mean, we're losing FTS, right? But there's two ways we're losing FTS. One is that we're losing students from coming here, but the other is that students are not completing once they come here. And it's been shown that packages like these can really increase that retention, you know, by double-digit percentages by really trying to track where students you're losing them in that funnel and trying to you know, increase the interaction with them to encourage them to stay.
Okay.
Yeah, and we don't have a product currently that can do this for us.
Well, I'm glad we do now. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Questions? Anyone else? Peter?
I'm trying to craft in my mind how to ask my question, but my concern has to do with the price tag. It's almost $200,000, and
that's a lot of money.
And in the previous discussion, we were talking about, yeah, we are in an austerity process. So for me to vote yes on something and issue a fundable item can't just be good or important. It has to be at that level that says this is critical.
Mm-hmm. Well,
does this come to that level for you?
It really does for me. Let me give you an idea of the cost point, right? I do agree it's not cheap, right? It's about $50,000 a year. $50,000 a year, and by the way, the first 5 years of it, the duration of this is covered by grant funds that we have received as part of this site business. They give us seed money to do that, and we decided to invest in this. $50,000 a year is really, for us, an increase in 10 FTES per year, right? That's about, 3 classes. So if this software can allow me to retain 100 students more over the course of a year, it's paid for itself. My expectation and hope is that it allows us to retain many more than that. So, but I do realize it's not cheap.
Yeah. And so what happens at the end of the 5 years?
I would say we would have to renegotiate we don't get what we've got. It's their solution. We would renegotiate an agreement with them on another yearly basis.
And I would imagine that would be coupled with an evaluation process.
Oh, certainly. We're not going to keep it if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay. I mean, that it is funded by the state is, of course, an important variable. But the public doesn't see it that way. The public sees these are expenditures. This is $200,000 of taxpayer money, which is why I'm concerned about it.
Right, of course.
And when we make an allocation, the public is less concerned about where the money comes from in the sense of pockets, and more concerned that this is all coming from the same pocket, namely theirs.
Yeah, well, and it is all from the state. I mean, it is,
Yeah.
this is state dollars. I appreciate that for sure. And I don't do it lightly. I mean, I think it's an important product that would really help us with our enrollment management strategies. And we know that that's one of the areas where we really need to be able to make some gains. And it's consistent with pathways and all of that. I mean, it's really all about aligning and organizing. And
Okay.
hopefully it will help in those ways also.
Okay, we'll do it.
All right. I'll report back to you.
Good.
Okay.
I don't have any stock in Salesforce.
Well, I have a question. The paperwork, this is sort of technical, but it has larger implications.
Okay.
The paperwork is a little confusing to me because there was something called the scope of work
Yep.
with signatures at the end, which made it look like it was intended to be the contract
Mhm.
rather than some other documents. So do we have all the pieces of paper?
As far as I'm concerned, you have all the pieces of paper.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a contracts person per se. I can speak to the product. I mean, but I don't know if there's an issue from a contract point of view. Maybe
Well,
Lindsay can
mostly
address
I'm
that with you, or-
interested in these sorts of contracts being looked at by legal counsel because they come to us usually in a form which is on their piece of paper, which means I'm in the business of doing this and I will write my contract the way that it favors me. And so having somebody look at it on our behalf and say, this looks fine, or I would talk to them about adding this provision, really gives me an additional level of comfort. For example, if in our interaction with this company, student data was hacked,
Mhm.
got out, that's a mess. And we would have issues about who gets to pay for fixing that problem. So, I expect council to look for that stuff. And I'm just wondering, do you know if they had a chance to?
I don't know the process that we normally use for contracts in terms of that level of detail with the business service piece of it. I don't know, Lindsay, do you have any?
Okay.
We don't usually, just because we have our own team that looks at that, but this one is a pretty big one, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, I mean, my thought here would be that we could approve it subject to review by council, and then it would not have to come back or anything like
There you
that.
go.
They would just,
We can do that.
do it.
Well done. I think anything that we do that involves student data, needs to be as securely guarded as we can.
So can I move?
David?
No.
Yeah, just a few questions. So I was wondering when would this go into effect?
Well, now depending upon when we get all the contracts buttoned up, the implementation process is probably about a 4 to 5 month process. So our goal would be, as soon as we get the contract settled, is to work with the vendor. They obviously have a schedule that they have to keep, and then we would arrange. I would like to do it as soon as we could, but that would depend in part on their schedule as well in our IT department, because it relies they need to have certain hours of work from our IT staff. So those would have to mesh, but as soon as we get those meshed up, as soon as we can, it's about a 4 to 5 month process.
Okay, cool. And how would we see the results of it? Like a correlation maybe to, I know it's a little bit difficult to show this program.
It's not causation, right? But certainly what we would look to see is, does this help us interact better with students? Do we see more, say this is a prospective student and we're using this product to communicate or organize communications with the student? Do we see more click-throughs with them on our website, more interaction with us as a result of us communicating with them through this? I would certainly be looking at it from a standpoint of, once we have captured a student also, do we see that this increase in communication that we're doing, does that have any impact on student retention? The problem is that we're not holding everything else constant while we're doing that, right? So it's hard to tell whether that's the causative agent or not, but I certainly would be looking to see, do we see any increases in those metrics of retention?
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Veronica, did you?
I just want to move approval.
Oh,
If we want to
Move.
keep discussing, yeah.
yeah.
Can I move approval of item 10.4 pending council review?
Okay. Jonathan, second. Any other questions, comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this takes us to Resolution 5, augmentation of revenue, and Resolution 6. Can we do them together, Angie?
Yes.
All right. Good. Motion to approve Resolution 5 and 6, augmentation of revenue and budget transfer between major objects. Jonathan moves. Second, somebody? Peter? Okay.
Trustee
Question? Well,
Sorry.
anybody? All right, go, Angie.
Trustee Croninger?
Aye.
Trustee Abud?
Aye.
Trustee Kugler?
Aye.
Trustee Bloom?
Aye.
Trustee Gallardo?
Aye.
Trustee Nielsen?
Aye.
Trustee Hasland?
Aye.
Student trustee Panbecci?
Aye.
Okay, that adopts those. Items for future board consideration, anyone? Peter, do you want yours noted? We're calling it yours. We're calling it yours.
Oh, well, I think the sense of it is heard, and
Okay.
I'm happy to work with you.
Doesn't need to be an agenda item? No, I don't think so. All right. Anything else? All right. I would like to adjourn the meeting in honor of Ricardo Ornelas. And thank you all for coming.
Perfect.
Thank you, Angie. This drives